So hello, my name is Joseph McDonald, and my co-founders are Hardik and Anthony, and we're at the company Pneumonix. And so currently in healthcare, there's a need to have high fidelity monitoring that watches for the advancement of disease. And a fantastic example of that is diabetes. So in diabetes, we treat it by looking at a metric called hemoglobin A1C. And all hemoglobin A1C is a 3-month high fidelity window of a patient's blood sugar status. These patients also have insulin pumps and blood sugar monitors that send that information directly to clinicians for treatment. So currently in respiratory medicine, we have a ways to catch up. We have no measurement that produces a high fidelity window for tracking the advancement of lung disease. What we do have is a measurement called FEV1. And FEV1 is a crude measurement that only looks at extremely advanced respiratory illness. We have to wait for patients to get extremely sick and short of breath before we treat them. And so we don't wait for diabetic patients to have seizures before we treat them. And we shouldn't wait for patients with lung disease to have advanced lung disease before we can do anything to help them. And so Hardik has a solution to that.
Okay, so currently our remote monitor consists of heavy machinery, as you can see in the picture on the right, sitting on a cart in a lab. So our idea is to get this heavy machinery and compile it down to small portable handheld devices, similar to what you see on the picture on the top right, and allow the information for the collected from those devices to be synced up with an app that will allow for continuous monitorization. Okay, so the two components of our idea, the portable handheld device and the app. So for the handheld devices, we'll have something similar to what a digital spirometer is, where the patients breathe into it, and something similar to what a pulse ox is, allowing patients to place it on their finger and allowing measurement of oxygen saturation. The data from these two devices will be compiled and sent to the app, where the app software will use the formulas that we have inputted to calculate for lung function, and those variables will then be sent to the patient clinician, where the clinician can then determine whether these patients need to be can stay on the treatment method they're on or need to be deviated away to to accommodate for their nearly lung function. Additionally, our app also features a community message board, which will allow these patients to connect with each other and feel a sense of community, so they don't feel alone as they're battling through their disease. Okay, so something that makes us unique compared to the devices that are already out in the market. The devices in the market only measure for lung volume, whereas our devices will measure for the structure function relationship of the lung by collecting information on the airway structure, blood gas barrier, and lung vessels. All these informations combined can be used to predict lung failure in patients before it happens, in patients that are newly diagnosed. And our device is the only one that will do this compared to any other device on the market. And all the information that we collect can then be used to help patients avoid feeling short of breath. Now, AJ will present to you what the mechanism of our device is.
So here's a basic flow chart of a situation that we predict that our device can help out with. So first, a patient that has been newly diagnosed with a respiratory issue is doing some sort of strenuous activity that could potentially cause them to feel short of breath. So before that happens, the patient can breathe into our device, either before that activity or during that activity, and place the pulse oximeter on their finger. The data is then sent over to the app, and the app spits out a lot of clinically important values that are important for diagnosing the disease, but also that specific value that can predict lung failure before it actually happens. If the patient gets within that danger range, the app can actually alert the patient that their lung function is failing, and then the patient can change their behavior. So stopping what they're doing to take a break or taking some sort of medication out loud. Our end goal is to help patients avoid feeling short of breath and to really give them the peace of mind that everyone deserves. As for the potential market size for a device like this is pretty large. There are 37 million Americans that have some sort of respiratory issue. The serviceable available market, or the market that we hope to eventually obtain, but not specifically with this iteration of the device, are patients that don't have comorbidities or specifically asthma patients, because we're not exactly sure how our device works with asthma patients specifically. As for our target demographic for this iteration, we really are targeting wealthier individuals that can afford a portable lung monitor with respiratory illnesses that really care about monitoring their health and don't want to feel short of breath. As for our go-to-market plan, over this next year, we plan to finalize our MVP. We have to get FDA approval because this is a medical device, and submit a patent for both the interface and the physical MVP models. We then plan to market our device through online ads and through our website, and we plan to sell our product in brick and mortar stores and online. As for the management team, I'm Anthony, and I'm in charge of the programming and creative design, while Joseph McDonald and Hardy Kalra are the human physiologists that really understand the importance of why this device is needed.
All right, any questions?
First question I have is, are you looking for people to get data from?
So we're currently interviewing patients with COPD and other forms of lung disease. So if anybody has a contact that they would like to share with us, that we would love to speak with them.
And how do we get in touch with you?
We're gonna drop our contact information in the chat.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. It's not COPD, but it could be something you guys could use. So, yeah.
So specifically, I think Jay, do you live out of town right now? Like outside of?
Yes, I live outside Iowa City.
Yeah, so that's kind of a key demographic that we're trying to interview. Is one of the benefits of this device is that you can live 2 hours, 3 hours from a hospital in some parts of Iowa. And so a patient, we interviewed a patient yesterday. She lives upwards of an hour and a half from a hospital. And so these patients with advanced lung disease have a huge issue of being able to actually get to the doctor. And so she has, I think she had stage 2 or 3 COPD, and she hadn't seen her doctor in a year, and it's because of COVID. And so with the advancement of COVID, in conjunction with telehealth medicine, the frontier of telehealth medicine, and then other interesting ideas such as Starlink by Tesla, so we can get universal internet access to everybody. We're seeing a huge market increase. All these people out in the sticks who have respiratory illness are not being treated, and sometimes they're passing away with inadequate treatment. So that's kind of the people that we're trying to target. And so, yeah, we'd love to talk to everybody and anybody.
I have a question. So is this exclusively for people that have a diagnosed condition? Or is this something that you can track your lung health over time and identify or determine maybe preemptive opportunities if your lung health is declining over a long period of time?
That's a fantastic question. And yes, we do require a clinician to have a diagnosis. We're not going to be able to predict the lung disease before it happens. And for example, like COPD, once you begin the spiral of COPD, it's basically impossible to get outside of that spiral once you've crossed this particular threshold for getting into the COPD range. Mm-hmm. Some folks are able to like extremely slow the progression, but the equipment that we have is like currently we use symptoms to track the progression of a disease. So a patient has to feel like they can't breathe before they can start getting on supplemental oxygen. And patients have reported that they hate that. It's like using an advanced fever to track how bad your infection is, right? Patients don't want to use their symptoms as a way to gauge or measure advancement of disease. And so this device will actually track the progression, like, oh, they're getting close to the needing this supplemental oxygen, and we have these particular metrics that tell us, like, oh, this person it's time for them to go on supplemental oxygen before they ever feel like I can't breathe, I feel uncomfortable, I'm scared because I live so far outside of the country, or I can't see my doctor right away. What's going on? And this device will tell patients specifically what's going on inside their lungs. As
Gotcha.
far as getting that point, I think you raised kind of an interesting idea. Is could maybe an athlete track their lung health? Could they see, oh, am I seeing improvements in my lung health? And that's kind of an interesting concept that I want to spend some time on.
Yeah, and just to follow up, I mean, one point to that is, there's regions where, there's a lot of air pollution, and how do you know until you have symptoms, severe symptoms, that this is impacting your lung health, right? I mean, you can have a general idea.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I'm not a pulmonologist, but, I would think that lung decline is a slow progress, kind of like kidney failure. It's a slow progress until you cross a certain threshold. But aside from that, my other question was, so you said this kind of gives you an indicator on where your lung health is at and whether you need to take action right away.
Mm-hmm.
And so would you use this before you would have symptoms? Is this something that you'd use on a daily basis? And going back to the example of, let's say, a thermometer, I wouldn't normally on a regular day check my temperature unless I had a symptom and then confirm whether I had a problem. Is this something that I would just use in a regular situation, or if I started feeling something, is that a case where I would, if I was starting to feel tight in the chest and short of breath, I would think I would naturally stop doing what I'm doing, catch myself, and then do I use the device to confirm that feeling, or do I call my doctor right then and there? Or I'm just trying to understand from a user perspective when and where I use this, or is this a chronic thing I use every hour on the hour type of thing?
Yeah, and so one of the things that I keep using COPD as they're a fantastic example of advanced respiratory illness. One of the patients that I interviewed informed me that you just don't understand that COPD is a lifestyle. Like, you have many pieces of equipment. You are very limited. If you want to go from your house and you don't have a portable oxygen concentrator, you don't leave the house. You stay at the house. And so one of the questions that I asked them was, how would you feel about having chronic measurements where you take the measurement all the time and it will warn you in advance? And they said they would be fine wearing some sort of device that would allow them to be portable and to get out and live their life, and maybe carry this device in their purse or pocket or car and take the measurement as needed. But you raise a good point, because do you want to know in advance before, like, for example, somebody said on a message board that I'm a part of, why is it that when I'm gardening, I just feel terrible and I have to stop, and then I take my saturation and I'm low, and I'm like, I wish I had an alert to tell me before I got to that point. And so that's a feature on a device that we could, on our device that we plan to implement, is an alert function. And so the question is, how do we keep that quality of life super high and then also actively track these saturations if patients are interested in having that?
Mm-hmm. So I guess, so my last question, I don't want to take up all the time. How is it an alert function if you have, I'm not trying to split hairs, have to do the activity yourself? So like if I put a thermometer in my mouth, I'm taking that activity, and then I look at the thermometer and I see my temperature, versus something that's, let's say, stuck on my body, like a glucose monitor, where it alerts me. I'm not doing any activity. It's automatically letting me know when I'm crossing a threshold, up or high or low. So is this something where they'll still have to do an activity, breathe into it and check it? Or is it automatic where it just knows and alerts them, let's say on their phone or some other device?
So that's something that we're looking at, connectivity to potential wearables. So we could have like a wearable such as a smart device on your wrist. And we can't use the data that the smart device gives specifically. But for example, MIT has developed a nano mesh that you can put on clothing itself, and it can track some of these metrics. Now that's extremely front end, like cutting edge technology, but it's a future device that we could potentially use. Is that we could say, how do we make this quality of life stay very high while actively monitoring these things, and then be able to alert them through a smart device or some sort of wearable without them having to constantly, like you said, you want to, if you could find your temperature without having to check it, just check your phone or your device, that might be handy. Well, maybe if we could just alert them like, hey, your saturation is reaching this critical point and you should slow down because you have CO2 collecting in your lungs and you can't get rid of it. And so, yeah, those are really, really good questions, and we're working on trying to answer those. That's exactly what we're really focused on.
Thank you.
I have another question here. What is like, so is it just an alert that it's like, what does the readout look like? Is it just like an alert saying, hey, you're hitting some sort of threshold you set, or is it just a stop what you're doing? Like, what is, so you take the measurement, but what does it look like with that?
Yeah, that's a great point. And so what we hypothesized that it would look like is that patients with advanced lung disease understand what we call pulse oximetry, and it's a percentage readout. And so what essentially pulse oximetry tells you is the percent of your blood that is currently connected to oxygen. And so they really intimately understand this percentage. We call it saturation. It's saturation as a percent. And so they understand like, oh, you know what? When I get to be about 95 or below, I start to feel really bad because I understand that I'm trapping CO2. And so that would be what the readout is the alert would maybe vibrate or send you an alert and it say, oh, look, your saturation is this. And so it's one of the things like, for example, patients with diabetes have an understanding of what the blood glucose normal range is because they're very intimately involved with that data point. And so we would be giving them a saturation. And we have other novel endpoints that we could teach them about to tell them what's going on. And so, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Any other questions?
Hi, Monster Sitter. Thanks for meeting us.
I do have one more question. So you said that this is targeted towards wealthier people that have lung conditions. I'm assuming this is because of the cost of the device, and I'm assuming that it's because it's not something that would be covered by Medicare, Medicaid, at least at this point in time. Is there a strategic reason why you're looking at this comparatively small niche of people that might have this interest rather than a market with maybe a broader need that might not have whatever dollar threshold you have on this product?
That's a fantastic question. And through interviews that we've done with physicians, they tell us a patient with 8 different diseases, they have a terrible time tracking their blood glucose. They don't care. They just want to live from day to day. And so they're like, we can't get these folks to actually pay attention to these things because they have so many things going on. They have all these different lifestyles, all these different hats that they're having to wear when they're trying to track the disease. And so we saw that and so then furthermore, in a different physician interview, they said a lot of the times the people that are looking at novel devices such as ours are wealthy individuals who have a single comorbidity, who just heard about their friend having some new device. And so those are what we targeted as our early adopters, folks that can get in there, The other things that's limiting is when you live out in the sticks, you may not have Wi-Fi, you may not have a smartphone. And so we've got this specific population. They're like, hey, let's get this product out there. Let's get people using it. And then let's solve these problems as we iterate the device.
To go off of that too, if you're looking at things that are sort of similar out on the market, a digital spirometer will cost around $200-ish that has the app connection capability, while digital pulse oximeter will cost around $20 to $30. So you're looking at around, if we don't know the actual endpoint of what our price is going to be, around $250 if we're going to match the market. And we don't expect this device as of right now to be covered by Medicaid or insurance. So, and someone that has the ability to afford that $250 is going to be our first target market until we can create something that's cheaper.
Gotcha.
So I have one question before we get to our final question. You get this thing built, you get patients using this. What is your eventual exit strategy with this?
So we'd like to get this device, this idea patent eventually, and try to get it out to like a major company that's already doing, like, license it out at some point as well. So that's also one of our ideas, to because like Apple Watch is starting to do a lot of big things, like doing EKG measurements, and a lot of, they're just continuously just going into the health field. So eventually, once they start more open to, I guess, outside ideas, and we'd like to get them to be like, hey, this is kind of popular now. Well, how about maybe also including this in your watch and allowing patients with lung respiratory illnesses to also monitor their lung function. So that thing, that's kind of like the where we want to head eventually, getting it out to a major retailer, so then they can like get this product out to the people.
Nice. And as we are starting to get toward the bottom of the hour, I want to ask our traditional final question here at 1MC Iowa City. What can we as the community do to help you?
So I think we're still in very early stages of this product creation, and we are still trying to get a lot of customer interviews to really cater our features towards our end product. So I know Hardik dropped his contact information in the chat. So if you know anybody that has any respiratory issues at all, please feel free to contact us, and we'd love to reach out to them to see how we can cater this device towards their needs.